On today's video, I'm going to be doing the mother of pearl headstock inlay on the DIY custom bass guitar I'm building. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is lay out where I'm going to put my tuners. So I'm just going to cover the headstock with some of this yellow tape. It'll make it a little bit easier for me to see and hopefully for you to see as well. I'm just going to trim this with a razor blade, get it a little bit neater. So let's take our template now and just line it up with our center line. There and there. And then I'm just going to take an awl and just punch these holes out right through the template onto the headstock. Okay, so we got our location of the center of our tuners marked out. So now the next thing I'm going to do is take my compass and one of these ferrules that's actually going to be going on here. So we're going to measure the distance, the outside distance of these. So that's 0.825. So let's go half of that. 0.825 would be 0.412 roughly, right? This doesn't have to be exact. I'm just trying to get a layout of where I can put my inlays right now. We'll mark these circles out here. I'm going to make it really obvious. Now I'm going to take this over to my drill press and I'm going to drill a pilot hole through these 4 marks. That way I won't lose them. Here I've got my drill press with a 1/8 inch drill bit in the chuck. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to drill the pilot holes for my tuners. So I'm just going to darken up these lines with a pen. Well, that looks really bad, but whatever. Okay, so now we know where our tuners are going to be. We also know where the outside of our ferrules is going to be. So at this point, we can figure out where our inlay is going to go. So this is what I got to deal with here. So it looks like I got some pieces of abalone and some pieces of mother of pearl. On my last build, I went with abalone. Honestly, I prefer abalone. I think it looks way cooler. But for this build, let's switch it up a bit and use some mother of pearl. Put this abalone away. We're going to do a D and a Z. So let's actually just take our 2 biggest pieces we got here. And we'll just run with these 2. And then we can save these for another project. So I've made up a few different designs. Well, it's all the same designs, just different layout and size. That we can go ahead with this inlay. Now, the biggest one will fit. We can get 1 letter out of a piece of pearl. Basically, this is about as big as I want to go. Probably could go a little bit bigger than that, but I'm not going to. Now, the question is, what will look better on here? So, I mean, we could put that one there. I mean, we could also put it down in here. The second choice will be a little bit smaller of a font. We could move it and put it like up in this corner too. Should kind of be a little bit unusual, but it'll leave us all this empty space. I feel like that's just too small to go there. So we got the D and the Z kind of vertical. I don't know if I like that as much. I feel like that's not right. Yeah, it doesn't feel right. So I think this looks best, the way it's laid out, horizontally, this size. So what I did is I went inside and I printed it out on this is just some thick paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it out with an X-Acto knife. And I'm going to use this as a stencil. And I'm going to use it to put the actual letters onto these pieces of pearl. Okay, so we got that cut out. Now we'll take our pieces of pearl. I'm just going to tape them to the back here. Okay, so we got our pearl lined up nice. Now what I'm going to do, just take some primer I got left over from my last project. And I'm just going to spray a couple coats off of here, a couple light coats so I don't get a lot of bleed through. Let that dry, and then I'll know exactly where to cut my pearl. All right, now I'm just gonna peel this off because I don't want it to get stuck together. All right, so there we go. We got our DZ marked out on the mother of pearl, and I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit, let the stink dissipate from inside of here, and then I'm gonna come back and show you how I'm gonna cut this out. Right now, I am just getting ready to cut this pearl out. It's mother of pearl, I guess, that I put the stencil on previously. So what I got here is just a piece of plywood screwed into my workbench, and I got a hole drilled in it with a slot. This is going to be my work area for cutting this out. Now the tools I'm going to be using is a jeweler's saw and just some small files. Now, if you haven't seen a jeweler's saw before, it has a very, very fine blade that is extremely easy to break. I only have 3 of these blades right now, so I'm really hoping that I can make it through cutting these out without running out of blades, because I honestly don't even know where I would get more blades. I haven't bought blades for this thing in a very long time. So the dust that comes off of, you know, mother of pearl or any type of shell, really, you do not want to breathe it in. It's very, very important you don't breathe it in, because I believe it gives you silicosis. Basically, the powder that comes off of this stuff is too heavy for your lungs to expel. Apparently, this is what I've been told. Don't quote me on this. Maybe look it up. But yeah, so it's really bad to breathe it in because once it gets into your lungs, it can't get out of your lungs, and it leads to permanent lung damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have my shop vac mounted here on the whole time, and it's going to be sucking the dust away. But yeah, if you're planning to do any kind of work with any kind of shell on your own, I would really advise you to not breathe the dust in. So that took like an hour and 15 minutes to cut out. Obviously, I sped up the video of me cutting it because it would be an extremely boring video. I broke one blade, so that was pretty good. Anyways, so we got our we got our Z, and we got our D. So I just got some acetone here. Put a little bit of acetone on a cloth and just... Here we go. I'm just gonna go over them quickly with a file. So these are done. So now it's time to actually cut the headstock for the inlay. First thing we gotta do is figure out exactly where we want to put it. Okay, so I think honestly right there looks good. I'm just cutting away the masking tape now. Okay, when I cut this out, I was pretty careful, you know, to do a good job cutting it out, as good as, you know, I am at this. So what I'm actually going to do here is use this, the offcuts, as a stencil to lay this out. So I'm just going to get this lined up. So I'm actually going to use the pearl offcuts as a stencil. So as you can see, I've got my DZ logo on my headstock now. So what I'm going to do is let this dry a bit, and while that's drying, I'm going to explain to you my setup I'm going to use to get rid of this material. So what I'm going to be using to remove this material is a regular old Dremel Multi-Tool, but I've got this really cool StewMac router base for it. So this allows you to use the Dremel, and of course just like a regular, you know, I don't know what they call that bit, but that's what you know, it's good for removing wood and stuff. So, but anyways, this StewMac router base is really what makes this setup amazing. So I've had this thing for forever I've had this router base, but I'm sure you can get, you know, ones off Amazon too, but I know for a fact this StewMac one is really good. It's really well built and is super accurate. So anyways, that's what I'm going to be using. And of course, I'm going to be wearing some safety glasses when I do this. And I'm just going to be cutting out all the primed area there. Hopefully I don't make a mistake, because, well, that would suck. I almost forgot to mention, I have already got this set at the correct depth. So these pieces of pearl here are about 45,000, well, not about, these are 45 thousandths of an inch thick. So what I've done is I've set this to about 40 thousandths of an inch deep. So it will be sticking a little bit above the surface, and then I'm going to sand that down once it's all glued in. Okay, so that's where we're at now. So at this point, I'm going to switch to hand tools and use a X-Acto knife and hopefully get this dialed in just perfect. So I got the DZ inlaid. Well, cut in. I still have to glue it in, but it's in there. You see that it's just above the surface there. So you can see there's a few gaps. There's a little bit of one there. There's a little bit of one there. But overall, for me, that's pretty good. Now for glue, what I'm going to be using is just some 5-minute epoxy. We got that. We got something to mix it with. We got something to mix it on. And in here, what I got is, this is basically just walnut sand dust I got from when I was working on the neck. So what I'm going to do is mix this in with the epoxy so that when these gaps get filled in, it'll be the color of the walnut and not clear like the epoxy. So I guess the first thing I'll do is pop these out of here right now. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just dispense some of this. That's probably more than enough. Put some of this sawdust here. I'm just going to mix it up. Okay, so that's probably good enough amount of sawdust. So let's just make sure that it's good and mixed. Ugh. Okay. So it looks like all the gaps are filled now. I'm just going to lightly clamp this. Okay, we'll just let that dry. We'll leave it for a bit, come back to it and see what we got. Okay, so I've let this dry for a bit. Let's take off the clamp and see what we got. Okay, so that's what it looks like after we took off the clamp. So I think what I'm going to do right now is just sand this a little bit and get rid of all that excess epoxy. All right, so I just got a sanding block here with some 80 grit sandpaper. Let's just start with that. So because this is the pearl dust, again, I'm going to vacuum up all this dust just so I don't breathe it in. Okay, so we're almost there. I'm just going to switch this from 80 grit down to 150 grit, or up to 150 grit. Okay, so just lick my finger a little bit. So we can see what this will look like with some finish on it. All right, so that's the inlay. Turned out pretty good. So that's it for this video. Things turned out pretty good. Definitely better than my last video. To be honest, I was hoping to install the tuners in this video, but I ordered the wrong size of Forstner bits. I should have known to order metric ones because my tuners are Japanese. I'll get those ordered up for the next video. In the next video, I'll also be routing the body for electronics and preparing the fretboard for fret markers. In the videos after that, I'll be gluing the base together, installing frets, doing the finish, assembly, setup, and of course showing off the finished product. So if you found that interesting and want to see how this turns out, make sure to subscribe. And if you're still watching, do me a favor and leave a like or check out one of the other videos on the screen right now. It helps out the channel and I appreciate it. Until next week, talk to you later.